Davis. I've been talking about him for nearly 3 years now on the podcast. He's just turned 22 now, 22 last month. He won silver at the last World Championships in the amateur ranks and at the last Pan American Games, both times beaten by the Cuban Andy Cruz, a more seasoned amateur. But Davis has the potential to be the better pro. I think he's from Norfolk, Virginia, the hometown of the late, great Pernell Whitaker. And he's decided to give up on the Olympics. He's been sparring some of the very best in the world, building his own burgeoning reputation. He made his pro debut on the recent Canelo Alvarez undercard in Miami. And he's been telling me about the decision to bypass Tokyo and the Olympics.
Yeah, it was very hard, the decision to make not going to the Olympics. Because it's the Olympic Games, it's the Olympics. And everybody wants to go, not just to compete, but just to go to the Olympics. So it was very hard turning that down, but I had an entire year to think about it, entire year just to get my thoughts together to think about if I do go, if I don't go, weighing my options. And I feel like me turning pro was the best option, especially now that I'm moving forward after my debut, just still overlooking things. I feel like the Olympic team wasn't the best route for me to stay on, and I took the best route of going pro.
Did you go back and forwards in your mind, though, Keyshawn? One day you were going to the Olympics, next day I'm going pro.
Well, yes, definitely. I used to wake up every morning before I really made my decision. I used to wake up every morning thinking about, man, I hope they say something about the Olympics. I'm hoping for the Olympics because that's what I was training for, But after 2020, I was just thinking like, this is a new world we're living in. And I feel like I had to adapt to this new world, and it's not going to be the Olympics that it usually be, I feel like. So I feel like making that decision was the right decision.
And you made your professional debut just a short time ago on the undercard of a Canelo Alvarez fight, the one against Avni Yildirim. What was that experience like all around, the build-up being around Canelo and on the night itself, and you're already smiling?
It was just excitement. It was just excitement. It was something that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. Honestly, it's going to be something I remember for the rest of my life, man. I know it's going to be a lot more bigger events, a lot more bigger, stadiums. But that one right there was just something special. Just me being this big amateur coming into the pros and everybody waiting to watch. And then, the build up before it. And then me actually going to perform better than what people expected, honestly. It was just really something to remember, and I just want to tell the world I got a lot more to offer.
When you've been around these great fighters, Canelo on that particular night, but you've spent more time around the likes of Teofimo Lopez you've sparred with, and Shakur Stevenson, a good friend of yours, and others. What do you think are the most important characteristics for making that transition from the amateur ranks to success in the pros?
Shout out Shakur Stevenson, man. I'm actually in his house right now out in Houston. But just the transition itself, I've been watching not just me being around like those top fighters. It really came from me being around Shakur Stevenson and alongside my coach, Kay Karoma. I was just watching how they transitioned over to, 2016 Olympics to going into 2017, his debut and stuff like that. So I was just watching how they was throwing the shots differently, how they was training differently, how they was preparing in training camp for differently. And then not only that, not the fighting side, I was watching the business side too. Me and Shakur talk business, but we don't talk about our business. Understand what I'm saying? We talk about boxing and what's the right things to do nowadays and how things change. So I'm just a person that just soak everything up. Understand what I'm saying? All I have to do is see it. And being alongside them too, like I said, those are the ones that really opened my eyes and taught me a lot about this pro game.
And that insight on the inside is so important, Keyshawn, isn't it? If you look back at, maybe the greatest example of somebody really taking hold of his career, Floyd Mayweather, who was looking in a direction that even the great Bob Arum, maybe the greatest promoter of all time, couldn't see the direction that Floyd wanted to go in. And yet Floyd buys his contract and completely changes what he is and who he is.
Yeah, from his name, from his fighting style, he got a little older, so he slowed a lot of things down. Business move, business minded. I feel like I'm that type of fighter since the amateurs. Honestly, I'm just always been business minded. I never wanted to jump into this pro game, not knowing nothing about it. I feel like I know a lot of these athletes, especially on the Olympic team, but even kids younger than them, they jump into this game, this pro game, and know nothing about it. They don't know who Bob Arum is or what top ranking ESPN have to do together. Understand what I'm saying? Like they don't know nothing. So I just didn't want to be that athlete that could be blindsided with anything.
And we were talking there about the characteristics that you need, but it's so important to understand that where you've been in the amateur game is pretty much a sport. I know there can be politics about team selections and which coaches boxers go forward and all of that, but the pro game is boxing as a business as well as a sport. Yeah. And it's so important to understand that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I also had to understand that in the amateurs, when I was on the team for the first 2 years before the Olympics came around, it wasn't really feeling like a business to me. It was really feeling like a college sport, like an all year round college sport. But when the Olympics came around, that's when they really started cracking down. And I really started to feel the business of amateur boxing. And honestly, I think there's a lot more politics in amateurs than it is in pros, which is crazy because amateurs don't get nearly as much money as professional fighters do. But I truly believe that.
And that first time out on the Canelo undercard, promoted by Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, what are you making of their way of doing business?
And I was telling everybody, I love Eddie Hearn. And I'm the type of person I don't really speak down on nobody, but I also keep it real, but I love Eddie Hearn. I love how he moves. I love how he speaks. I love how he promotes when he speaks. I love how he's engaged in the social media also. And he understands nowadays boxing. Understand what I'm saying? A lot of these promoters, they don't really understand how to promote nowadays. They just have the networks that they can put these fighters on. That's their promotion. They don't really go out here and promote like Eddie Hearns do. You see Eddie Hearns interaction all through social media, interacting all on social media. Before he met me in the DMs, we was having a lot of dialogue in the DMs and on Instagram. It was just like, he knows this world of boxing we live in today. Understand what I'm saying? One of the reasons why, like, he the one that really, really supports Triller. Triller's coming in the game with a different finesse, I would say. And
yeah, this is the company that put on Mike Tyson against Roy Jones. Yeah,
right, exactly. Like the exhibition fights and stuff like that, just for the fans. So he really, really supports Triller. He was actually happy that Telefibo got the opportunity that he got fighting on Triller. So just bottom line, I love Eddie Hearns. I love what he's doing, and I know they're gonna keep it up over there.
And it's interesting, you talk about, the exhibition fight between Tyson and Roy Jones and how successful that was, and YouTubers are making an impact. And it's a different world of professional boxing that you're moving into. For example, to the one that, the great Norfolk native Pernell Whitaker, bless his soul, was in back in the mid-1980s.
Yeah, definitely, man. A lot of the promoters been around since Pernell Whitaker. And they still hanging around. Eddie Hearns is it's like me. I feel like he's like the new promoter. I'm like the new fighter in the game that everybody wants to watch. Understand what I'm saying? Eddie Hearns is just like that new promoter. He knows nowadays boxing, and I feel like Triller also knows too. They know a little something too, especially put on the fights they have put on. They have to know something.
And you're moving into the lightweight division, which is as strong as it's been for many, many years. It's probably the hottest division in the sport right now, although, we're about to see a great super flyweight fight as we speak here on Saturday afternoon UK time. You've sparred with some of these. Teofimo Lopez was one in particular that really created a sense of controversy, the sparring session that you had. Tell us the story of what went down that day.
Honestly, I love that experience, honestly. He a great boxer. And of course he got the power with it. He loves to show the road defense. But I mean, it was just like, to me at that point, it was just like, I've been in the ring with a lot more people than Teofimo Lopez. So I kind of like had not the experience, but the confidence going into the ring. So I was just doing what I do, honestly. Like, it wasn't really no nerves. It wasn't really no anticipation. We was asking, when I was in Vegas, when it happened, we was asking to spar almost the entire week. So I was just waiting for it to happen in Top Rank Gym, and it happened. And I feel like I did great, honestly.
You got the better of him. Because
Well, it's. I
you've
mean,
been
it's
talking like
hard.
a politician, like a diplomat.
I mean, it's far though, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't really like looking at stuff like that. You know, boxing fans love to look at stuff like that because boxing fans always try to build a fight. I understand what I'm saying, but I'm actually in the game. You feel me? So I don't look at it like that. I just think it was great work from both of us, and I was glad to have the opportunity to spar him.
When you were growing up, when you were first boxing, Keyshawn, who were your heroes? I saw your face light up when I mentioned Floyd Mayweather, Pernell Whitaker's from your hometown, and I've read about how you looked up to Muhammad Ali, even though you weren't alive when he was in competition.
Yeah. The first one you named it, Muhammad Ali. First one. I mean, he's just undeniable. I feel like, but where I feel like where he really stood at, I feel like he was great in the ring. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like what people really shine the light on is what he did outside the ring, as well as what he did inside. Understand what I'm saying? I just want to be one of them people that just impact people outside the ring. Also, the same impact I can do inside. Understand what I'm saying? I just want to be a people's person, honestly, which I am a people's person. And I just want to show the world who Keyshawn really is, not just a fighter, but he really is not just a businessman, but he can also be a person that touched people. That's who I want to be. And Floyd Mayweather, just inside the ring, undeniable, 50-0, great defense. He's just undeniable. Understand what I'm saying? And I just want to be one of those fighters inside the ring also. That's just undeniable. You can't really say too much bad about him. So I'm gonna find a way to put those two together. And that's gonna be Keyshawn.
How much of this comes from where you were born and raised, Keyshawn, in Norfolk, Virginia? You've spoken about it as being, it's a tough place to grow up at times.
Yes. I feel like where I was born and raised made me the great fighter of who I am now. Just being tough, rugged, of where I'm coming from, having that tough mentality, not letting nobody run over me. That's where I came from. That's how I am today. But how I was raised, my mother, being alongside my brothers and my sisters, I think that's what gave me the heart I have today of how I was raised. Shout out my mother, Wanda Davis. She raised all 5 of her children right, but especially the boys, though. The boys can get into anything nowadays. And she raised me and my brothers, Keon and Kelvin Davis. We all like this, with a great heart, great mentality, business-minded, well-rounded individuals. Understand what I'm saying? And, I just give all credit to my mother, Wanda Davis.
And one day soon, she might be the mother of a world champion, huh?
Oh, yes, she's definitely going to be the mother of 3 world champions, Keon, Keyshawn, and Kelvin.
Hey, it's been great to talk to you, Keyshawn. Really appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you too, man.
Great stuff. Good luck in your career, and we'll talk, no doubt, down the line sometime. We've been talking about you on the podcast for a couple of years, so don't let us down.
Oh, for real? Why y'all ain't never put me up there?
Hey, we latched onto you at the Chemistry World Cup that time.
Yeah.
Shakur.
Oh, that was that time.
Shakur let go of a short video clip, and I watched it, and I thought, wow, this is different.
Thank you, bro. I really appreciate it.
And the defeats against Andy Cruz are fascinating because maybe he's better suited to that style in the amateurs. And, with you doing all that sparring in the pros, maybe that was just that tiny ingredient that made the difference.
Yeah, I think so too. He trains for amateur boxing. I'm just training to be great. Makes sense.
Okay, we'll have you on again then anyway, Keyshawn. Great to hear from you, and all the best with your career from here on.
All right, thank you, bro.
Do you like that, Steve?
Oh, listen, let me tell you something, Mike. When you started talking about him first in 1993, right, I knew then he was a special fighter, okay? And that was lovely. That is an interview there that that we must never lose.
Are you saying I've been banging on about this?
No. Listen, you might have been banging on about him when you first mentioned him, and then the second mention, the third and fourth. But then by then, people had started to find the clips of him. People had started to discover him, and then suddenly people started to talk about him. And what that clip's great for, you remember that interview I did with Tyson Fury about 11 years ago when he was talking about just having sparred with that young kid at Finchley, okay? When things like that come back 10 years later, okay, when everyone's suddenly an Anthony Joshua and a Tyson Fury expert, and you play that, it's lovely. So we'll play that Keyshawn Davis interview, even though it is nearly 3 years after you first started mentioning him. Put that away in a time vault. It'll be absolutely beautiful.
You're so right. That's exactly what I thought as I was listening back to it there, Steve. We'll get to emails and iTunes reviews in just